What do the flat-bottomed paper bag, the game Monopoly, and the treatment for leprosy all have in common? Well, these are all women's ideas that men stole. But these are only a few examples. It happens so much that there's even a name for it. It's called the Matilda Effect. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about how we steal women's ideas in company forensics. First, I guess we'll have to talk about why it happens. Why do men steal women's ideas? Could be jealousy, but there's of course much more than that. Throughout history, many women have worked under men's authority. And unfortunately, such dynamics have led to just men taking credit for women's work. It's as easy as a man taking a women's research, for example, and signing it as his. That's simple. Women also have historically been banned from working in specific fields, so for centuries, they were exceptions. And that's, of course, if they even had the chance. Even today, in some cases, their presence in science and technology can be more of an exception than the norm. Men used to view women as inferior or just incapable of being up to par. So not only did they have to fight to get a job, women were looked down upon, and their accomplishments just smeared with criticism or undervaluing. This problem led Matilda Josley Gage to research how men got credit for women's ideas, be it due to authority or sexism or jealousy or a combination of all of these factors. By the way, that was back in 1870, and it even goes back even further. Look at Theano, the first woman mathematician. She was brilliant, but Pythagoras took credit for most of her work. As research on women's accomplishments has intensified, we've learned more about how some of these great minds worked. Most importantly, we learned of what they did, and some of their examples are fascinating. And if you think that there can't be such blatant thievery, well, this video is going to show you otherwise. And it all starts with a woman dying in a science lab, all the way back to New Year's Eve, 1916. Alice Ball was 24 years old when she died of complications from inhaling chlorine gas, and this happened at the lab that she worked on as a student at the College of Hawaii. Her death is a mystery. Some reports state that she inhaled the gas by accident when teaching others how to use a gas mask, but others show the cause of death to be tuberculosis. All of these questions add to the mysticism of Alice Ball and why she's so important to our story. This woman helped thousands, and she made history while doing so. Alice Ball is the first African American and the first woman to get a master's degree from the College of Hawaii. She was also the first woman and African American to have an instructor position in chemistry back in 1915. She got all these accolades because at just 23 years old, Alice Ball had accomplished something marvelous. There's a horrible disease called leprosy that for centuries had no cure, but research in China and India showed that the oil from the chalmugra tree could work as a treatment, but there was a catch. The oil was pungent, so drinking it was almost impossible. It was also water insoluble, so it caused this burning sensation and these reactions when you injected it. Still, Alice Ball was so brilliant that the Hawaii public health officer asked her directly, "Hey Alice, I need you to solve this for me." She managed to take the oil's fatty acids and isolate compounds to create an effective therapy. Moreover, it was injectable and it caused very few side effects. And she did all this by age 23. Her treatment was so effective that it would be used for more than 30 years, but someone would steal her thunder. 1 year after she died, the president of the College of Hawaii, Arthur Dean, published her research under his name. And then he called it the Dean method, which is just as douchebag as you can get. Do you remember this public health officer who asked Alice to develop the solution? Well, he found out about the Dean method in 1922. And he was like, "No, God!" So he published an article describing Alice Ball's original findings and called it the Ball method. By 1922, she already had some credit, but barely. In fact, her work almost disappears if it wasn't for Dr. Catherine Waddell Takara. In 1977, she learned of Alice Ball and made an effort to preserve her biography. Otherwise, we would just not know about her. And this situation sucks, and our next case sucks even more. Can you imagine going to a patent office and discovering that someone has patented your same idea, your actual idea? Well, that's of course what happened to Margaret Knight back in 1867. And let me tell you, Margaret Knight took no bullshit from anyone. So when she actually found out who it was, she went all out to prove that he was a thief. It all started when Margaret began working in a paper bag factory. She noticed that bags couldn't stand upright. And of course, that's something that we take for granted today. But back then, bags were flimsy. So she began working on this machine to create flat-bottomed bags. Now, it's important to note that other machines already existed that did something similar. But Knight wanted to create a device that did everything at once. But she needed an iron model to patent her invention, and that's where Charles Annan comes in. While Knight was visiting a factory to create the model, Annan saw it and just shamelessly stole the idea. He rushed to create his own device and patented before Knight did. It's a mystery how, but he pulled it off. So when Knight tried to inscribe her idea, she realized just somebody had copied her. But as I said in the beginning, Margaret Knight was badass. So Knight countered with a patent interference lawsuit. And can you guess what this Charles Annan did? His defense was that a woman couldn't have the intelligence to invent this machine. That's what he actually said. Knight had none of it and spent around $32,000 in today's money in legal fees to prove that she was the inventor. And in the end, she was victorious. Not only on the legal front, the patent ended up giving her a comfortable life, and she carried on working as an inventor. And that is great. I think it really is. Knight had the means, of course, to pay for lawyers and to finance the lawsuit, and that isn't always the case. But before we get into the last example, the one that really inspired us to make this video, I want to talk about today's sponsor, which is Fiverr. Fiverr is a leading online marketplace for digital services, connecting individuals and businesses with talented freelancers. But on top of that, Fiverr also has his own super powerful logo maker. Fiverr Logo Maker is a DIY tool for creating a professional logo for all types of business based on a library of over 15,000 logos that were all designed by top brand designers from Fiverr. It's the perfect combination of human creativity and AI. So you simply set the preferences and choose from a library logo of designs that you can customize. And once you have a logo you love, you can buy it by selecting one of the popular packages and instantly downloading all the logo files that you need. So you'll get full commercial rights to use your logo anywhere you want to promote your business or brand. You can click the link in the description and use the coupon code Slidebean20 to get 20% off on your first Fiverr Logo Maker purchase. And of course, thanks to Fiverr for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so for the last story, it's Monopoly.
Hi, Monopoly Dave.
You see, I love Monopoly. I've played Monopoly since I was a kid. We've used it in a bunch of our videos. And when I read the story about how this game was born, it became even more fascinating. So in the 1940 US Census, Elizabeth Maggie Phillips listed her job as a game inventor and her income as zero. But she had created what would become the most popular board game in the world, Monopoly, of course, yes. So what happened? In 1903, Elizabeth Maggie Phillips invented a game called the Landlord's Game. It was a protest against property monopolies and millionaires like Andrew Carnegie and Rockefeller. The game is very similar to the Monopoly that we know today, but it just had a different goal. Maggie Phillips wanted to show the evil side of this wealth and real estate accumulation. She patented the game in 1904, and here's the most interesting aspect. There were two opposing modes, monopoly and prosperity. One was to accumulate wealth, and the other one created products and interacted with other players. So in 1909, Maggie approached Parker Brothers to publish this game, and the company rejected the idea out of the complexity of the game. So fast forward to 1935, and then Parker Brothers company began distributing a game called Monopoly. And the inventor they listed was Charles Darrow. The problem is, of course, he didn't invent it. Jobless since the Great Depression, Darrow spent most of his time watching his friends play the Landlord's Game in Atlantic City. And Darrow took the game, he varied some basic things and claimed that he invented it, and he even called it Monopoly. And when she found out, she was angry. Of course, Maggie took to the Washington Post to prove that Darrow had stolen her idea, but the bad thing is that this didn't change the outcome for her. Darrow would be associated with a game that he didn't invent for decades, and worst of all, he said that he didn't plan to create the game, instead that it was somewhat of a divine inspiration. And with the royalties, this guy, of course, became a millionaire. As for Maggie, Parker Brothers paid her $500 for her game.
No, God!
However, since they released only a few copies, they refused to pay any royalties. So she created other board games that failed to replicate the success of Monopoly, which was her original idea. She died in 48, and for years, she didn't get any recognition for this. Today, the first versions of the Landlord's Game are amongst the most collectible games out there. People pay big bucks because now they know what happened. They know what this game means. So it's kind of vindication, I suppose. So the next time you're playing Monopoly, remember that. Just like the game, Greed is an essential part of its history, and we can say the same about thousands of ideas that come from women. For decades, women have struggled to get the credit that they deserve. We've done a tragically excellent job of hiding their accomplishments. Now, I think it's our job to help them stand out, like the women that came up with the idea for today's video. See you next week.